Yeah, so we're going to be talking about financial wellness, and some people enjoy talking about finances and others do not. And I know that we're all coming from different backgrounds, we've had different experiences, and we're different ages. And so it's a very diverse group, but hopefully everyone can learn at least one thing to take back with them or share a nugget of information with a family member or friend. I'm going to share my screen here. So many of us enjoy going on vacations, planning trips. This year has been a unusual year. Not as many trips and vacations have been able to take place, but hopefully soon everybody will be able to go and travel again. So we're going to imagine right now going on a vacation. It doesn't have to be a long trip. Maybe you're the type to plan a quick weekend getaway even. And let me go back a screen. There we go. So no matter how long you'll be gone, one of the main things you have to do beforehand is pack. There are the essentials, your toothbrush and other toiletries come to mind. You might lay out certain outfits or just grab what's clean. How many pairs of shoes will you pack? What's the weather going to be like where you're going? Do you need sandals? Or do you need a ski jacket? Take a look at what you've laid out for your trip, and you'll see stuff you need and probably a few things you want also. A favorite sweater or outfit, perhaps. Leave space for anything you're going to buy on the trip, maybe souvenirs or a t shirt. You might be wondering why I'm tempting you with a vacation. Think of your budget as that suitcase or duffel bag you're packing. It doesn't have to be fancy, just functional. Your budget is a container, and inside there's the stuff you need, some things you want, and room for more along the way. And that's what we're going to be learning about today in this workshop. Oh, where'd my screen go? There it went. Specifically today, we're going to learn how to avoid the obstacles to budgeting. You will gain a better understanding of the impact your priorities have on your financial life. You'll learn an easy way to set achievable goals. Then you'll get the tools you need to track your spending. And I'll share with you the secret to successful everyday money management. Finally, if you're wondering how to apply what you learned today to your unique situation, before we close, you can have access to 2 resources to help you get started. I'm Kristi Clark. I'm a financial associate with Thrivent. My office is located here in Boca, and I've been with Thrivent for over 20 years. I've been here in the South Florida area for 8 years. And I have a partner, John Lovett, that works with me at my office. Did you know that just 40% of Americans have created a budget? So if you fit in the remaining 60%, kudos for attending this webinar and being willing to take the first few steps. You might see yourself somewhere in this pie chart from a survey on reasons people put off creating a budget. I get it. The task has logistical as well as emotional components. For starters, you'll need to go through your bank statements and take a good look at your spending habits. Can you relate to any of the reasons people avoid budgeting? The survey also revealed men and women responded differently. Where budgets are concerned, men were more likely to say they don't feel like creating a budget, whereas women were more likely to say they never stick to a budget. Also, according to the survey results, various generations have different reasons for not creating a budget. Millennials most responded that they never stick to a budget, while Generation X and baby boomers don't think they need one. No matter your age or your gender, or whether any of the obstacles on this pie chart describe your reasons for not budgeting, we've got you covered today. You're about to pick up tools for creating a budget that will incorporate your priorities and goals and give you an easy way to gain more control. Step 1, understand what matters most. The first step is to understand what is important to you. Values are principles that guide your actions and behaviors. It's a compass, if you will. Understanding your values can help you make sense of some choices you make in life. It can help guide you while making intentional money decisions. Let me give you an example. Jesse has a strong aversion to debt. His parents instilled this value in him from a young age on the farm in the Midwest. When Jesse married Rose, he drew a line in the sand early on. "I'm not interested in borrowing money," he told her, "not even for a house." Jesse's picture of economic security has no room for debt. Fortunately, what Rose values most, her family and its stability, has enabled her to embrace this approach. Fast forward 20 years, Jesse and Rose have raised 2 girls in a 2-bedroom apartment that's convenient to their jobs and school. "I'd rather travel as a family and take the girls on adventure," Rosa admitted, "than bother with home improvements and property taxes." As you can see, their values guided their principles and actions, and so do yours. Here's a purposeful exercise to help you reflect on what's truly important to you. Take a moment to study the words on the screen. Once you have chosen, please take 60 seconds to write down your top 7 to 10 priorities. Do your priorities include love, loyalty, fame, family, maybe adventure or affection? It'll take some time for you to write down what matters most to you. Once you have chosen your top 7 to 10, put a star next to your top 3. This is a good exercise to do with your loved one or partner or family members as well. Understanding your priorities can bring clarity and purpose to your actions and have a positive effect on your spending choices. Helping people understand what is important to them is one of the best parts of my job. It's humbling to see when the light bulb goes off in their heads and they can clearly see the why behind their priorities. We recognize that when you have what you need financially, you're able to focus on what matters to you, protecting your family, maybe spreading generosity. Step 2, dare to set goals. What are your hopes and dreams for your life? Another term for hopes and dreams is goals. And that's the second step in our session today. Setting goals, keeping goals, setting out to achieve those goals. Goals are something you can look forward to, and they provide a true sense of accomplishment once you cross them off the list. Of course, not all goals are financial. You might want to volunteer in the community, or plant a vegetable garden, or travel to Greece or somewhere. Those are very worthy goals, and I encourage you to set some and get after those as well. Today, however, let's stick with more specific financial goals related to your purpose-based budget. I mentioned how what is important to you can help you understand the why behind what you do. Setting meaningful goals plays a vital role in that too. This story demonstrates how motivating it is to have a strong why behind your goals. Chris and Sam want a classic American dream to buy a house, but they aren't as organized as they could be and often miss due dates on their bills. That has led to some late fees and higher interest rates on their credit card balance, which has caused their credit scores to take a hit. Since credit scores have a direct impact on the interest rate Chris and Sam would pay on a home loan, they would struggle to afford a higher house payment. They both take responsibility. We need to get our act together if we're ever going to buy a house, Chris sighed. Sam nodded in agreement. At the very least, let's set up a plan so we stop losing track of our bills. You may have heard that a goal without a plan is just a wish. For Chris and Sam, their goal of buying a house is so important to them that they are willing to make some serious changes in their lives. They're ready to get organized and pay their bills on time, all in an effort to boost their credit score. Doing that work will help them qualify for a lower monthly payment, which will ultimately lead to their home sweet home. Setting SMART goals. How can you create a plan to achieve your goals? To be successful, you might make your goals SMART. That acronym can help you remember how to make your goals more effective. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, results-based, and timed. Be as specific as possible so you know what to focus on. For Chris and Sam, hoping to buy a house is too vague to be a goal. Working on their credit scores so they can afford a house payment is specific. Make sure your goal is measurable. Chris and Sam can easily find information online or ask their banker how many points they might raise their scores to qualify for a better interest rate. Then ask yourself if your goal is realistic. Is it achievable? Taking into account their current income and expenses, can Chris and Sam actually buy a house? The confidence with which you can answer this question will help you see if your goal is realistic, and more important, help you decide just how far you will go to achieve it. What specific endpoint can you set to get the results you need? There are short-term, mid-range, and long-term goals so set your expectations accordingly. For Chris and Sam, they had to start by getting organized, so they pay their bills on time. Having a short-term goal tied to your longer range goal can help you gauge your results. And finally, set a deadline. Be sure your SMART goal is timed. Chris and Sam are planning to adopt a baby. They want to be settled in their home by the time their family grows. The point is, be realistic when setting your deadline. Then when you accomplish that goal, it's time to celebrate. Sometimes it takes a nudge like this session to dare to set goals. Take a look at this list of short-term goals. They are all related to creating and living within your budget. Jot down one of these or another goal you might achieve in the next 6 months. Goals are an important part of your ongoing money decisions, and it's easier to create success by starting small. Focus on one goal at a time until you're ready to take on the next challenge. Step 3, understand your spending. This third step is when budgeting is the most challenging and the most rewarding. This is where you start to take a look at your numbers. It's a process that will help you understand your income and your spending and gauge how they align with your priorities and support your goals. You might be thinking to yourself, hey, I can do this. It makes sense to really look at where my money is going. Or you might be thinking, no way am I going to track how much I spend every time I eat out or spend a penny. The main reason to live with a budget is so you're prepared when life really comes at you. Because let's face it, life will come at you. You know what I mean. If you've lost a job or if you've discovered your water heater is leaking, or like our kitchen leak 2 weeks ago. Your budget won't prevent life from happening, but it can act as a buffer when it does. Because there's no getting around it, life does cost money. Take a look at these average U.S. household expenses. The Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks this every year per consumer unit, which is the government's way to refer to any family, single person, or people living together and sharing expenses. Now, you might spend less than the average household on transportation, or perhaps you give more to your church or synagogue and charities than 3% of your annual expenses. I don't want you to get caught up on comparing how your expenses stack up, but rather help you see why it's important to understand your spending. Only when you know where your money is going can you truly start to gain control. Is anyone surprised by this chart? The COVID-19 pandemic has meant a lot of emotional and financial uncertainty this past year. It has affected all of us in one way or another. For instance, Maya here had worked at a vision clinic for years, conducting eye exams and helping customers choose glasses. In her mid-50s, Maya thought, I can save extra money for retirement if I can learn how to use all the equipment and be ready to fill in when coworkers want a day off. Then the coronavirus hit. Maya was suddenly out of work because the vision business was considered non-essential during the pandemic. Maya qualified for unemployment benefits, but it took a month before those payments began to arrive. Why did Maya stay so calm during this crisis? She had a clear understanding of where she could cut spending and eliminate some expenses. She was confident she wouldn't need to borrow money for her house payment. Maya had achieved a true sense of control made possible with a budget. Budgeting is a practical way to get on track and stay there. Building your budget is a process to get you where you want to go. You can get started simply by committing to opening your bank statements and credit card statements. It's not uncommon for potential clients to come to my office and ask me to put together a plan for them, and they just give me a stack of unopened mail. But you need to know what those statements say. Look for trends in your spending. Dare to add up how much you spend on groceries for a month and count up the money you spend at restaurants. Be patient and trust that it will get easier over time. Once you have started paying attention to where your money is going, you can find ways to manage those expenses, and you just might gain control over it. Okay, I said budgeting is a process, and it is. There are 3 components to the process. We started here with tracking your spending. It's all there in black and white when you look for it. Your numbers, your bank statement activity, where your money goes, which bills need to be paid, which charities you support, or restaurants and stores. To help you get started, a Gain Control of Your Money worksheet is one of the resources that I'm happy to email to you. Next up is understanding your income. Income is your monthly take-home pay. For simplicity, don't include any paycheck withholdings, such as federal taxes, Social Security taxes, flexible spending accounts, or employer-sponsored retirement plans like your 401k. While these are part of your income, they aren't available to spend and they don't affect your budget. If you're self-employed or your income fluctuates based on hours worked and other factors, do your best to estimate an average monthly earnings number. Tally your average monthly pay by adding up what you make in a year and divide it by 12. Your budget comes down to simple arithmetic. Start with your income, subtract your expenses, and everything that comes after the equal sign is what you have left to spend. Now, this is the point where the mood often changes in your budget conversation. Being open to gaining control is one thing. Actually sitting down, doing the math is another thing altogether. Your budget mindset might turn into a brain freeze. But this third step is so vital to actually gaining control. Is it worth it to you? Just take it one step at a time. A budget or balanced spending plan can help you bring all the information we've talked about here together in one place. Depending on how detailed you want to make it, you can designate nearly every penny of your paycheck using this equation. If your spending number is too high, where can you find ways to cut expenses? Once you see the results of your income minus expenses equation, do you have enough for savings or for achieving your goal? There are all sorts of tools available to help you stay organized and manage your income and expenses. Search online for apps and computer software. Ask your bank or credit union about tools that they may offer. Or you can simply use this Gain Control of Your Money worksheet. Plug in your income and bills, and the math takes care of itself. Remember how I said at the beginning of this step that this part of budgeting is rewarding? I talk with people all the time who want to share more with their churches, charities, and synagogues, but they can't seem to find the money because they aren't sure where their money is going. If being generous gives you purpose and you set a goal to give more money, creating a budget just might help you manage your expenses so you can make giving more a priority. And I find that very rewarding. When budgeting is concerned, it's easy to dwell on what you aren't doing. And it's easy to only think about money when you hear the word budget. But life is so much more than just money. How do you spend your time? Where do you use your talents? How are you sharing with others in a meaningful way? You might be pleasantly surprised when you look at this list, or you might see a couple easy things to start doing. Either way, you will see that simple steps lead to true accomplishment. As I scroll through the list, use a notepad to keep track of what you're currently doing, or jot down a few things you can get started with today. There's many organizations here in the Boca area that are looking for volunteers at all times. You could go on and request a copy of your credit report. There's 3 credit agencies, and each year, every 12 months, you can get a free report from each one. Just attending this workshop, you're doing great. Hopefully you'll be able to share some information and take action for yourself. Save, maybe you need to look into some health insurance or life insurance, disability or long-term care insurance to help protect your family and loved ones. Step 4, the secret to success. First off, today you started understanding what matters most to you through a thought-provoking exercise that I hope you took to heart. If you have a significant other, sharing what you have learned about yourself and your priorities can go a long way to opening the conversation about money in your household. Those things that give your life purpose, that make it meaningful, play an essential role in setting your goals. Today you learn that setting goals is the second step in budgeting for what matters most. But it's probably more accurate to say those steps are simultaneous. Are you setting goals based on your values, or are you using your values to set goals? Know where your money is coming from, where it is going, and how you can gain better control of it. Which brings us to the 4th step of budgeting. The true secret to gaining control of your money, the secret to gaining control is don't let money control you. It could be hard to accept the simple truth. But I will say it again, don't let money control you, and then you can put your purpose into action. I don't know about you, but I know we all need exercise each day, and some people look forward to it. I don't. I don't love to exercise, but I know it needs to be done, and so I do it. Exercise is great for our bodies, but imagine you're on a treadmill that has an image to look at as you're jogging or walking. The image is a dollar sign. You could chase it for the sake of the chase. The risk is the treadmill will pick up speed and the off button will be out of reach. And chasing the dollar has that reputation. The alternative is to figure out meaningful ways to use the money you earn. Replace the dollar sign with other images. Maybe a picture of your family sitting down to a meal together. The canoe you've always wanted to purchase. Delivering a check to Boca Helping Hands. Maybe seeing your kids attend college. Or the trip of a lifetime shared with your loved one. Stating goals that match your purpose and priorities makes your financial strategy a journey rather than a chase. And you have control over that journey. You have a roadmap and tools. You see, money is not a goal. Money is a tool. Recognizing that money is a tool is central to what we do at Thrivent. We see money as a tool that helps you lead a life full of meaning, that enables you to take care of yourself and your community. Let me tell you a story about Carl here. He was working an okay desk job. After a couple years, Carl got promoted. As they sometimes do, tensions arose between Carl and his manager, and work stopped being something he looked forward to. Now Carl thinks to himself, I don't need to love my job, but is it too much to ask that my boss isn't a jerk? The answer to that question motivated Carl to start looking for another job. The one that caught his eye was more of a hands-on role where he wouldn't be behind a desk all day. When Carl was offered the job, he realized it was going to pay a few $1,000s less than what he was making. Carl told his partner how disappointed he was that he couldn't take the new job. It feels like I'm always broke already. I can't afford to take a pay cut, he said. His partner suggested they look at their budget. Looking at the numbers, Carl realized he could give up his streaming subscription since his partner had an account too. He also saw a trend of stopping for overpriced breakfast sandwiches and other snacks at the convenience store on his way to work. It really would not take that much effort to cut out a few more expenses and stay ahead of the game. And Carl took that job. Earning more money was never his goal. Finding a job working with people he enjoyed was what Carl had in mind. He used what he learned about his spending habits to dare to take the leap to a different job. Oops. There we go. Sorry about that. It fell over. There we go. Most of the time, you have the ability to redesign what your future looks like. What you take from this workshop is up to you. Did you just need to hear it's time to get organized? Maybe you just needed a reminder to open and study those bank statements. Do you know how much money you make? Have you talked to your partner about how much he or she makes? Incidentally, I'm surprised how often I ask couples this question, and they honestly have no idea how much money the other one earns in a year. I encourage you to create opportunities to have open honest conversations about money so you have clarity about your financial future together. To help you create financial clarity, put to work what you can from this workshop. Do your goals align with your values? Could you relate to Jesse and Rose, who are able to travel with their family more often because they don't have a home loan? Did the story about Chris and Sam ring true to you because your credit score could use some boosting? How can you use what you have learned here today to enhance your use of money as a tool? Can you set some goals to make it happen? Maybe that doesn't mean studying every penny as it comes in and goes out, but maybe it does for you. The realities of your situation are different than anyone else's. It bears repeating that the secret to success when taking control of your money is to not let money control you. Take another look at the short-term goal you wrote down earlier and commit to a date to achieve that goal. Or jot down the first step you're going to take in the next 48 hours, and then hold yourself accountable. Speaking of next steps, at the beginning of our time together, I promised you if you'd like to apply what you just learned to your situation, I can email you those resources. Feel free to send me an email, and I will email you those the budgeting chart and then the other chart with the priorities. Gain control of your money worksheet and the customized strategy session. I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening. And yeah, open it up to any and all questions.
I did want to share something so that maybe this will open up for others to do this. But when I sat with you on the first workshop that you had, I guess you had done it with FAU, after I finished with all this wonderful information, I literally went that weekend and sat down and I wanted to see what my expenses were and what my debt was. So I did. I wrote everything out and I pulled everything out and I said, okay, what's my debt right now? Where are we? And all of this. And my husband's like, what are you doing? And it was extremely telling. It was it was a very therapeutic experience. I found that it was very good for me to see on paper how well we were doing in one area and where I could improve in another area. So it really did make a difference. And I thought it was great. So, maybe for others to do the same thing. And I think the scariest part is to figure out how to start to just figure out how to write a budget for yourself, like to do it that way. I think most people struggle with. And if anybody has a question about that or wants some guidance, that's a great question for you. Like, where do you?
I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. That's a huge step.
No, it was great. It was a really good exercise. It was very telling that we were on the right track here, what you could manage here. Because you're right. You do see in your budgeting, if you don't look at things, you don't know what you're really spending them on.
Right.
You add up all that discretionary spending, you may notice, oh, I could tweak over here. Or I could tweak it over here and then save a little extra. And I would imagine that there are some people out there also during this pandemic who are feeling like they're a little bit more flushed for cash because we're really not going out and doing a lot of entertainment type things.
Mm-hmm.
So, way to also take that money and maybe apply it to other things.
Right. And that's what I think is great too, is just thinking of goals that you have and then looking at ways to achieve those.
Right.
How often should you check your credit score in case you're interested in obtaining a loan or to have an idea, if you're going to be able to be approved for it?
Well, I think it's really important with the 3 credit agencies, and you can do each one every 12 months to rotate it. So do one and each quarter, divide it, well, not each quarter, but every 4 months, because it was a while ago, maybe 10 years ago, I checked one of them. There's TransUnion and Equifax, and they did not, the one was good. And then I think it was TransUnion. It like 4 months later, it had all these extra charges on mine. And I'm like, and it said that they were late and all this stuff. And I was like, I don't have any of those. It took over. At that time, I wasn't trying to make a purchase of a home or a car or anything that needed that. But you need to catch it ahead of time so that score is correct. So I would check it every 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree, because I did also have some information when we went to purchase our home, and they pulled it. There were things on the credit reports that were not valid, not true, and very, very old, that should have come off. So it took me a little bit of time to clean it up, and then, they help you. But yeah, I had to do that also, and I highly recommend that.
Good. Thank you. Good feedback.
Yeah, so it's Equifax TransUnion, and here's the other one. Do we know, Kristi?
Oh,
It's Equifax and TransUnion, right?
yeah, there's another one. That just slipped my mind. Let's see here.
But those are the two top ones, and they do vary. I just want everybody to know that they do vary a lot on the scoring.
Experian.
Oh, Experian, right? That's it. Those are the three top ones: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And they do run different scores at different times. Like sometimes you're higher on one, lower on the other. So it is worth checking. Absolutely. Kristi, one of the things that you said, which really resonated with me, was understanding your spending, because I think that we don't touch money anymore. And I know that this was a big issue when we went to, debit cards all those years ago. And you spend differently when you're not taking money out of your wallet. And I actually had to kind of like readjust myself to just figure out what you're not using cash anymore. So how do you make sure that you're really holding true to your spending? It's very easy to zip right through with that credit card. And I'm sure others have the same issue. So, I don't know if there's any good way to, give advice on how to make sure that you know what you've done in the day instead of maybe waiting for the month or something like that for some of our participants.
Well, one thing I would say for sure is debit cards, you'll see that coming out of your checking account as opposed to a credit card just receiving the bill at the end of the month. But most banks, for credit cards or debit cards, you can get an app on your phone, and then you can go on it each day and see exactly what was charged to it. And so then, you can record it if it's an app that you use on your phone, or if you're actually writing it down on paper and pen. So you can record how much you spend each day, or you can keep the receipts.
That too.
Unless you get it emailed or whatever. But I would just go on the app of whichever bank is the holder of that.
Right. And, so go have your banking online so that you can check it on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I need to do small estate. Okay. So that was a question. Hang on. So Laura said, I need to do a small estate affidavit. Where would I start to find out what the process is for this and how to go about it? Thoughts?
So attorneys do that. So you could contact an attorney, or there's also, if you go to Office Max, they'll have it. But there's also a website called LegalZoom.com, LegalZoom, LegalZoom.com. Okay. And they have a lot of forms on there that you can download and do yourself as well.
Oh, that's great information. I had no idea about that. That's fantastic. And they have forms and things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else, Kristi, that you want to add?
No, I was just going to say thank you so much for having me. And I hope everybody learned at least a little something, or could share a little bit with somebody, a family member or neighbor or someone.
Oh, I'm definitely, I took notes myself. I mean, I loved that SMART where, you're really kind of just looking in and making sure that you're, being truthful to your finances. And I really, really liked in the beginning where you asked us to pick like what were the things that were like most important, because I think that really is I think that gives you a direction. Everything I picked was to be debt free. So that was a very good way to, to get you to start thinking about the budgeting process and like where you can cut things or how you could do things better and where you can save money and all of that. So I thought that was great.
I think it's interesting from where I sit in my position, with my job. Yeah, like I feel like most people think everybody has the same goals, but they don't. Like it's not everybody's goal to own a house. It's not everybody's goal to retire at age 60 or, everybody has different goals, and it's what they value and what they prioritize. And so I really enjoy my position and helping people reach their own goals and put a plan together in place to help achieve those goals. But yeah, everyone's unique and different and has their own circumstances. And so that's what's neat about that chart. You see all those different words of what you value and what's important to you. And what you pick, you might think, well, doesn't everybody pick that? But no, I mean, that's you and everybody's different. And I think that's an important chart to look at and talk to your spouse or your partner, your loved one, because that's a good tool for communication and seeing, because I know money is one of the big things people fight about. Well, if you can kind of understand what they value and where they're coming from, then that takes down some of that strain and complications.
Oh, I so agree with you, because if you're on the same page with it, then you're working towards the same goal.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right. Money is a tool. And that was another thing that I'm leaving with this time, because that really resonated. It's a tool to get you from one place to another. It's a tool to help you achieve what it is you want out of life. So yes. And that was a great way of putting it. I may actually have to share that with my clients, when they come to us, because I like that. That's really a great way of putting it. It really takes the fear, I think, out of what money is, the fear of it, and you're in control of it. It's not controlling you. That was great.
I see here, Lee wrote, are you able to share it? So that's what I'll do, Sherry. I will send you the attachments and then you can mail them out to everybody.
Yes, I will definitely do that with your information and everything. And then I will also, for everybody else, I will send out maybe a little survey so that, I would like to do this again. And if we get some feedback, we can then tweak what it is that we're presenting. So that would be really helpful. So everybody's been fantastic. I'm really glad that they came and joined us for this workshop. And for you, Kristi, because this is the second time I did it with you and learned a whole bunch more and took a whole bunch more. So this was great. This was really great and a lot of fun. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. So thank you.